So good afternoon, students. Good afternoon. Thank y'all. So my name is Freddie King. I'm a city council member in the city of New Orleans, and I invited Council District Attorney Jason Williams here to have this, I believe, much needed conversation, especially right before we enter summertime. Summertime is a time where school is out, and as we all heard the story, the idle minds, the devil's workshops. We want to make sure that we could put something on y'all minds today that'll help y'all not make a mistake over the summer that can cause you all a lot of pain, that can cause others a lot of pain. One thing that came to my mind is how easy it is to enter summer as an eighth or seventh grader, trying to go to high school, trying to go to middle school, and you leave that summertime, you end in August on the wrong side of the criminal justice system. So we want to come here today to have an open and honest conversation, and hopefully you all can get something out of it, not just you all right here, but those who are watching, as well as your peers, your friends, your relatives, your neighbors. So I'm going to introduce our great district attorney, Mr. Jason Williams. He is a district attorney. He'll let you know a little bit about that. He was a council member for a long time, and also was a private attorney, private criminal defense attorney, one of the best that I've seen. So he's seen the criminal justice system from all angles, and one of the best, most qualified people in this city, maybe in this state, to have this conversation. So with that, I'll introduce our district attorney, Mr. Jason Williams.
How y'all doing? Y'all all right? Y'all ready for summer? Yeah. How many more days y'all got? Ooh, the pressure is on us to make these hours count. I wanted to, I love sitting down and talking to young people because I always learn something. I feel, honestly, I'll be 50 this year, but I still remember this grade as being one of my, like at middle school, right before high school. It was that moment where I felt like I was coming into who I was going to be in the world, and you can make that transformation in a positive way, or you can make that transformation in a negative way. Who you are in the world, how the world sees you, and how you see yourself in it. As Councilmember King said, I used to be a council member like he is, and now I'm what they call the DA, the district attorney, which means if someone hurts someone in this community, our community, it's my job to hold them accountable, right? I work for you all. I am you all's district attorney, although neither one of you may have ever voted because you're not the right age to be able to vote yet. I still work for you. The DA of your parish prosecutes people to make your community safer, not to harm people, not to be mean to one neighborhood over another neighborhood, but to help protect you and keep you safe. That is what the job is. Now, one of the ways I do that is I focus on cases that are coming in to make sure that if a witness saw something, reported to the police, I put them on the witness stand to help us tell a jury, wow, this person killed your neighbor. And so that witness testifies about what they saw, and we work together on that. It's a team effort. The community will never be safe if people in the community aren't working to make it safe. And so I want you all to look at me the same way you look at a waiter in a restaurant, right? If you go to a restaurant and a waiter comes out, he checks your glass each time to make sure you got enough water, right? Because he serves you. And if somebody drinks all that water, they fill it back up. That's what any public servant does. We wearing these coats and ties. They might as well be Applebee's uniforms because we are here to serve you all, and you all are the community. And as far as I'm concerned, y'all are the most important part of the community because you're the most vulnerable. Because of your age, you don't get to vote, don't drive, You can't control a lot of your circumstances and surroundings. So it's up to us to make sure that you all are protected. We also are relying on y'all because in this space here are our next mayors and council members and DAs and lawyers. So at some point, we're going to check out and y'all are going to be checking in. Me and Councilmember King are going to go to our evening summers, right? Where it was the summer forever, retirement. But I want to make sure y'all on good footing as you enter the summer. Crime goes up in the summer in New Orleans. It goes up because people get hot. When people get hot, they get agitated, they get bothered, and crime goes up. It also goes up because a lot of times we haven't had good opportunities, places for young people to go, places for young people to go do things. So I absolutely want to hear from y'all about what you're looking forward to in the summer, what you think might be missing from you this summer, and maybe we can work together to come up with ideas and clues to not just keep this group on the right path, but to help your cousins, little brothers, older sisters, little sisters, parents, other community members, keep everybody on the right track. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with you all, but I'm really, more importantly, looking forward to hearing what you all have to say.
And that's the main thing. We want to hear from you all. We want to hear from you because, like the DA said, you all are our future. Whether you want to believe it or not, we're going to be looking to you all in the next few years to make decisions that's going to affect this city moving forward. But you can't do that, all right? You can't do that on the wrong side of the criminal justice system. So I'm going to give the DA some scenarios that I've heard happen a lot. Like I said, through my visits in JJIC, I hear a lot from the kids and from the students, and they tell me, man, I didn't know that, or had I had somebody tell me this, things may be different. So we're going to have some interactions, some verbal interactions with the DA and myself, but I'm going to call on y'all. I really want to hear what y'all got to say and what y'all think.
No wrong answers, guys.
There's no wrong answer. All right, so y'all ready? All right, I want to get some good feedback from y'all. All right, so the first scenario is I'm standing on the corner with my friend. Another friend pulls up. He's in a vehicle. Now, I don't know how he got this vehicle or how she got this vehicle, but I know yesterday he was with me walking. Now they're in the vehicle driving. And they say, Freddie, come on, hop in. Take us a ride. I say, why not? It's hot. I'm tired of walking. You got you some wheels. Don't know how you got them. Really don't care. I hop in the vehicle. We get pulled over, blocked down the street. Vehicle comes up stolen. Just was used in an armed robbery. Just was stolen from somebody you picked the store. My friend did it, or somebody who I thought was my friend. But I didn't know. He never told me, and I didn't ask, but I kind of had an idea that there was something funny about this vehicle and how he or she got it. So that's where we're going to pause right there. All right, everybody, y'all follow me so far? We're going to pause right there and let the DA explain to us up at this point what we got ourselves into. Because a lot of people don't realize just by hopping in that car for a quick 30-second joyride, you may have caused yourself and your family some money and some pain. So, Mr. DA, tell me where we at so far in this scenario.
Let's look at it the way a doctor would analyze you if you went into the hospital and you were sick. How old are you? 13. How old are you? 12. Okay. Let's say they showed up with a brand new Mercedes-Benz right out here, and you needed a ride home. You were tired. Your mom or somebody had called and said they weren't going to be able to pick you up, but the bus wasn't running. It's hotter than it is right now. Should you be able to get in the car with a friend and take a ride? What do you think?
It's mixed emotions.
Mixed emotions. That's good. Always think about things through different lenses. Tell me why it's mixed emotions.
You don't know if the car is stolen.
Let's just stick with that. You don't know if the car is stolen. You said you're 13? All right. 13-year-old don't even have a driver's license, right? So first and foremost, if you know this person's in your grade, you know they're not supposed to be driving a car, even if it's their parents' car, right? Because they don't have a license, right? So number one, that could get you in trouble. Number two, what if the car was stolen? If the police stop you, they may not be asking who had the car all week or what time you got in the car. They would probably arrest everybody in the car. And then let's talk about how cars are stolen, right? There's carjackings. Sometimes people actually take a car from somebody. They might hurt that person when they take the car. So now that's a murder case along with a ride in the car. What if it was just car was broken into and the car was taken? The police, based upon the evidence they have now, they have two people in a car that was taken from somebody else. They don't know how long they had the car or how long you were in the car before you stopped on the way home. So although, yeah, you should be able to hop in a car with somebody you know, we got to really diagnose how this could impact my summer and the rest of my life. Because what if you had to sit in jail for 2 years, right? 2 years waiting to go to trial. And you didn't know the car was stolen, but they don't find out for 2 years. So you would miss what? Freshman, sophomore year. And you were innocent. See, a lot of times it's not just about whether or not you're going to be proven guilty. Why put yourself in a situation to lose your freedom? And so we got to always think about that sort of perception of things, right? So, yeah, you would think you should be able to get in a car with somebody you know, but you want to have those mixed feelings. That's your gut asking you, this don't smell right. You was catching the bus with me last week. You know, how's he driving? How you get a license? You got a special permit? You know, nothing wrong with asking those tough questions. Let's say they get mad. Man, you're not going to take a ride with me. Would you rather have an associate or a friend or a schoolmate be mad at you for 30 minutes or 5 minutes? Or would you rather be defending yourself for 2 years? What do you think? Mad, right? Let them be mad. Be mad. Let them stay mad if they want to stay mad, right? Because you got too much at stake to take a chance. And you can also look at certain things. Does a steering column have a screwdriver in it instead of keys, right? Is the window broken out, right? Have you ever seen them driving before? And of course, their age. So always factor those things into it when you're deciding who or what car you'll get into. And it could be, let's add a flip side to it. What if it was their older sibling, somebody you would expect to be driving? Might be worth saying, you don't need to get into a car till you ask a few questions if you don't know anything about those folks, or just stick with your usual means of transportation, you know? Rather have your feet hurt and be hot than to be hot in jail and have your feet hurt, you know?
And the few questions, if you ask those few questions up front, you may prevent yourself from a long summer, like you said, a long 2 years, because while you're fighting these charges, what if you can't make a bail? What if you got to stay in jail for 2 years? Miss your sophomore year of high school, your junior year of high school, time just flies by, but you stuck in jail because you thought you was going with a friend for a quick ride. So let's take this scenario a step further. You're in the car, you don't get pulled over, you go a little bit further, you go a couple blocks. Let's say you're over here and you at school, and I'll end up uptown. So who was from the third ward? Let's use you. We uptown now. Now police uptown pull us over. So y'all been riding around for a while, so everything seems cool. And now, for whatever reason, we search the vehicle. We search the vehicle, and your friend, or someone you thought was your friend, because gave you this ride, has a weapon in the car with some drugs. You knew nothing about this. You were just going along for a ride. Y'all follow me so far? So now, district attorney, tell us what we at now with the weapon, say a gun found inside of a car with any drug, you name it. We're going to keep it real. So let's say it's just some weed or some pills. We want to have an honest conversation along with this car being stolen. So what scenario have you found ourselves in now?
So you've got this thing in the law has something called constructive possession and actual possession, right? So all of y'all might have cell phones, but your cell phone is in your book bag in your locker right now. But the locker is assigned to you at the beginning of the year, and you're the only one with a combination on it. So that would be, if you got a cell phone, you would be in constructive possession of your cell phone because we can reasonably believe that you're the one who knew the combination to the padlock, knew what your locker number was, had your backpack in it with your Jolly Ranchers, with your pencils, with your pen, with your books, right? So that's constructive possession. Actual possession is if you got your phone in your pocket like your glasses, right? Let's flip this scenario up. In the car, everybody in the car, the police could say, legally, is in constructive possession of anything in the car, whether you've been in the car for 5 minutes or 5 years, right? So if there's a gun in the car, you got to ask yourself, well, one, if everybody in the car is underage, it's an illegal gun because you can't have a gun under a certain age in a car like that, right? Number two, what has that gun been involved with? Let's just go to the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is somebody got murdered with that gun last month or last year. And so they match that gun with the bullets found in that body. So everybody who's in constructive possession might be investigated or charged with that homicide because you were in a car and you didn't know it was in that car. And then there's another charge. Let's say it's a clean gun that wasn't involved in any shootings that hurt anybody, but a gun close to any drug, no matter how small the amount is a whole separate charge with mandatory jail time. Just because those two things were together, right? Because the law looks at if there's a gun with any kind of drug, that gun is used to possess those drugs, suggesting somebody was selling those drugs and you just went for a ride. So it's not a dumb question. It's not a naive question. It's not a offensive question. If you get in the car with somebody to say, are there any drugs in the car? Are there any guns in the car? Because if so, I want to make a different choice. I don't want to get in this car. And so, again, I'll go back to that piece of, I'll tell you, I was reading a book one day. It's called The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I don't know if y'all might be too young to watch it right now, but at some point I want y'all to watch this movie. And in this movie, the movie's about a serial killer. And the serial killer says to his final victim, every single person who I've killed has voluntarily walked into this house and didn't leave when they knew something was wrong, right? So you gotta listen to your gut. A lot of times we worry about not being polite or not being cool, and we ignore our gut, but it is really telling us something's wrong right here. What do you think about it? You got the mic. What do you think about that scenario? Get in the car, there's gun and drugs in the car.
What drugs got to do anything with a gun?
He says, what does drugs have to do with the gun? That's a great question. This is the Michael Jordan to me of criminal defense. I'm just a role player. So I'm gonna let him explain in his eloquent way, what does drugs have to do with a gun and how you put those two together is like a match and a can of gas apart, all right? They're not really harmful. Once you put them together, it's an explosion. So I'll let our DA explain just how much of an explosion that can be.
So the law, when those two things are found together, the law treats the finding of those two things together as if one was being used to protect the other one, to protect being able to transfer drugs, share drugs, sell drugs, what have you, right? And so that's how the law is set up. So most police officers throughout this country, if they find those two things together, they're going to charge you with being in possession of a firearm with a narcotic, right? And that is a very serious charge with a mandatory jail sentence. So that is a huge fire, especially considering the gun could be legal. And depending on the drug, there might be an explanation. There might be a pill bottle because someone was required to take those drugs. Or it might be a joint that someone would get a citation for if it wasn't connected with the gun, right? And the other thing is, guns are not supposed to be around or used by persons who are using a substance that would impair their thinking, right? So what does one have to do with the other? It could be nothing, but in the court of law, it's usually a whole lot. It's like a lighter and gasoline.
And real quick, I had a friend of, let me ask you this, let me tell you this. I had a friend of mine, he got pulled over and the cop said, "Do you have a gun?" He said, "Yeah, the gun is in my name, it's under," he smelled weed in the car. So the cop said, "If I find one seed, that's technically weed. And you're gonna go to jail and be in there for a while." Now the cop didn't find anything, but he said, "Man, my heart was beating the entire time." Because he knew had that cop found, it doesn't have to be cocaine or heroin, it could be one pill, it could be one seed, it could be a roach. If that's in the car with the gun, it's mandatory jail time. So you had a question, then we're gonna come to you.
So it's like, it'll be like people that take medicine, like if they need it, like if they're crazy or something, so they can't be around no type of guns, or that'll be jail time.
So I'll give you a point. So if you've got a prescription for, name it, it could be lithium, it could be, they might have a mental issue, or they might have an emotional disturbance that they take some sort of pill for, right? But sometimes people will have, let's say you're driving someone else's car, or someone is driving someone else's car and their pills are there. If you have a prescription that belongs to someone else, that is in and of itself illegal. And if that pill case is next to that gun, then all of a sudden it triggers all these things that make it very difficult. You might, like we said before, you might be able to prove who all these things belong to, but how long might you sit in jail waiting to get to that point, right? Now the law was made for drug trafficking and large amounts of drugs, but it is used daily for a gun, and it might be a seed, it might be a pill, not in the bottle, not what have you, but we gotta wonder, you always have to ask yourself, what can I prove in a court of law? That's one thing. But what can you avoid going through in your young life to increase your quality of living? And truth of the matter is, sometimes it's avoiding certain situations where you don't control everything that's in a car. Does that answer the question?
Okay. So you had a question. What you got?
If you're a minor and you can't use a gun to protect yourself, what can you use?
You can use me, you can use him, you can use your teachers, and let's just ask ourselves, how many times do you ever hear Natasha on Fox 8 describing somebody who actually did protect themselves? How many times does somebody stop a bank robbery? How many times does somebody stop a school shooting? You actually don't hear about some quick draw McGraw, somebody pulling a gun in a carjacking and stopping it from happening very often, right? You actually hear about somebody's little sister or little brother finding a gun where they think they left it, and they look at it, and the next thing you know, they've shot themselves, or they've shot someone else. Or someone leaves in the car, forgets it was there, and somebody breaks the window and steals it, and then goes and uses it. So protecting ourselves is not about having the most powerful gun or a powerful tool or gun or weapon on our person. It's about all of us collectively saying, we're not going to stand for people hurting people in this community, and we're going to come forward and we're going to participate so the people who are hurting people where I live, they don't get to stay out here. because they don't deserve to be out. If somebody hurts you, they need a timeout. If you get a timeout for a behavior issue in school, and that's how I remember school working, then if somebody is killing somebody in our city, they need a real timeout. And so how do you protect yourself? By us taking collective stance against anybody who hurts anybody in our community. Not by us all packing, because we're going to all wind up shot if we do it that way.
And I'm gonna ask you a question. So you asked if you're a minor and you need to protect yourself, that's what you asked, right? Why can't you, if you can't use a gun, what can you use? So let me ask you, what situations would a minor your age get into where they need to protect themselves with a weapon?
Somebody getting kidnapped or somebody put a gun to their head.
And he said a situation where someone's kidnapped or a gun to their head. Anybody else have a scenario? Yeah.
Somebody getting jumped.
Somebody getting jumped. So, okay, let's kind of divert for a minute. So if you're being carjacked, you need a gun to protect yourself? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because if they carjack you, most likely they trying to rob you.
Okay, well, look, we got carjacking, but I'm gonna go to what you said, because that's a very real possibility. So he said he's being jumped, and you think you need a gun to, that may be a time you need a gun to protect yourself. So if I and my friend start punching you, you're being jumped, okay? And you pull out a gun to protect yourself, and you shoot one of us, and you kill us. So now you have a murder. So the question now is it?
But what if you show the gun and you still go to jail for it?
Say that again?
What if you show the gun and you still go to jail for it?
Well, we'll get to that. But this is something that's like almost everyday, a very random, a very common occurrence. So I shoot somebody who was jumping me, and one of them was killed. Now I have to defend myself in court. So I'm asking DA to explain to us, one, was that a justifiable homicide? Because if it wasn't, then that quick thinking, because you thought you needed a gun to defend yourself, it's going to cost you the rest of your life because it wasn't justified. And also, I want us to take a time to think about, we real quick to pick up a gun, or we hear too often of someone picking up a gun to resolve an issue. That's more than a weapon. That's not the only way to resolve an issue. Because when you kill somebody or you harm somebody with a gun, you can't come back from being killed. If I curse you out, if I fight you, you can come back from that. You can recover. But if I just get mad and feel played because you jumped me or you beat me up and you got the best of me and I shoot you, you can't come back from that. But let's look to your scenario. So if he shoots somebody because they jumped him and one is now killed, can you explain to us what kind of situation that landed him in, and also about the proper ways to defend yourself? Like, it's been a while, but using the amount of force that was used against you.
So we just had a case. It's not too dissimilar. It was a teacher actually who was in an incident, and someone was harming them, right? But there was a weapon, and the law allows you to defend yourself. You can defend yourself and you can defend other people. So it's called self-defense and defense of others, right? But if someone is harming you with their fists, right, and you bring out a gun and you shoot them, the law has consistently said that the force you brought out, the gun, was too much for fist and hands. Those fist and hands only typically wind up with bruises, cuts, lacerations, maybe a black eye, maybe a bloody nose. But a bullet is final. And so the law has been pretty consistent that you have to use reasonable force to defend yourself. So if someone pulls out a knife and you pull out a knife, those are the same things. If somebody pulls out their fist and they're jumping you and you shoot them with the gun, most times that person is charged with a murder. And so the last thing you want to do is have a battery or an assault turn into a murder case in which you lose your freedom and lose the opportunity to do all the things you want to do. Because to your point earlier, when you say, well, what about if we need a gun to protect ourselves? There's a lot of ways we can protect ourselves. One is using our voices and letting people know when harm has been caused, any kind of harm, right? And if we deal with things on the lower level, then they don't rise into a point where somebody's taking somebody else's life. So, I mean, adults, whether they be DAs, whether they be school leaders, whether they be teachers, whether they be news people, whether it be people at juvenile court, adults are supposed to step in when harm or threat is caused to you all. And so we just need you all to alert us, anyone know, when harm is caused so that we can step in so that you don't have to feel the need to try to step in and protect yourself or defend yourself or defend someone else. You about to say something?
So you said like we don't need a gun to protect ourselves when somebody's trying to fight us with a fist, but like what if we don't know how to fight, and what if the person is much bigger than us, and what if you said adults supposed to step in when harm is happening? What if it's just a bunch of people trying to jump you and you by yourself and nobody around you and you have a gun? You're just not supposed to put it out and just defend yourself when there's 1,000 people three people trying to jump you.
What do you think? I mean, seriously, I mean, how would you feel?
I would pull the gun out.
Okay.
I wouldn't shoot them, but like.
Let's play it all out. You pull the gun out, and it sounds like you don't want to shoot anybody, right? I mean, that's what I mean. You're saying you pull a gun out, but you wouldn't shoot it because you don't want to kill anybody, right? When you pull a gun out and you're not prepared to use it, now it's a really dangerous situation because they might take the gun and use it on you. So the common theory for law enforcement is you pull out a gun when you are prepared to use it. And if you introduce a gun into a scenario like that and you know this is not the right time to kill somebody, you have just added a final solution, a final big piece to this thing that would just, nobody wants to get beat up. I'm with you. You don't want to get beat up. I don't want to get beat up. But how would you feel living the rest of your life because you killed somebody who was going to beat you up? But take jail out of it. But that's why you said you would just show it. You should never just show a gun. That's a terrible plan for you if you got the gun, right? Think about it. If you show it, but you're not ready to use it, you use it, now you wind up in jail, charged with a crime because your self-defense was too much for that moment. But you pull it out and they use it on you, that's a very terrible scenario as well. In most situations, the best case scenario is for there not to be a gun involved in the thing. If there is no gun present, I can list so many cases where no one would have ever gone to jail.
But they're trying to hurt you too, and it's not, okay, say if it's not one time, you didn't have the gun that time, they're trying to fight you and jump you all over and over again, and you don't have nothing to help yourself, and you just by yourself, and nobody can defend you.
Well, I would say, one, it may not be the cool thing, it may not be the popular thing. I would run, because y'all laughing. I'm serious. I would run because
I would run too.
I'm alive. They're alive. Nobody parent is crying. Nobody parent is shopping for a dress or a suit to put my child in the casket. That's real things that I've seen parents have to go through. So I would first run, and secondly, I'm willing to bet you tell any adult in this room that I'm being messed with by these students or these individuals, and they'll step in for you. They'll step in for you, and so would I, and so would the DA. So if you feel like you're in a situation where you think a gun is needed, I would run fast as I can. I'd turn into a track star, and I'd call an adult and say, listen, I need some help. Because you're with 12, 13 now, Was it worth it 20 years from now when that person is no longer here because y'all had an altercation and you thought running wasn't cool?
And
So-
look, I'll tell you this: I've gotten in fights growing up. I've been beat up growing up. I've been bullied. The crazy thing about that is, some of those folks I got into fights with, and some of those folks that might have beat me up or might have bullied me, we actually still know each other right now, and none of us even remembers what that fight was about or what happened that day. We know we got into it, but no, it was so minor and it was so small that me at 49, 50 years old this year in November, neither one of us could point to what was going on that day. But had there been a gun, it would have changed everything.
You had a question?
Like she had said, she said if people jumping her and she pull out a gun and don't use it, what if one of those people that was trying to jump her got a gun and she pull out the gun and they feel threatened and they shoot her?
They would be. So he asks if she pulls out a gun, doesn't use it, but someone else pulls out a gun because they felt threatened and they shoot her, would they be justified? I would think the answer would be yes. Let's just assume we're all of age here. I would say the answer is yes, because you threatened me with a gun, and now I have every right to defend myself.
Yeah, I mean, and I can tell you this: just look at the news. You know, if there is a shootout, whoever survives the shootout will also be going to jail. There is no winner in that scenario. I mean, you might survive that thing, but now your life is forever changed, right? So, but I hear you all, and if there is a situation, I know a lot of times things don't happen at schools. Sometimes schools, the safest space some folks have, right? It's that area between school and home or neighborhood or the store, something along those lines. If there's an issue where someone is consistently bullying you, or a group or a gang or somebody is consistently jumping you, let us get involved in that. Let us handle that, right?
We had a question here.
And like they jumping her, like she said, like, and what if like she try to leave, like y'all said, and run? What if the people would like shoot her?
Well, that's murder, and I would be the one who would prosecute those people and make sure they go to jail. You know, I mean, the goal for all of us, I mean, it's my job to prosecute people when they hurt people, but I can't do that without you all. And the goal is not just to deal with when people shoot people, but also when people jump people or when people steal from people. All of that is criminal activity. And it is solved in a way that allows you to keep going to school and be the people you all want to be. Better resolutions come out when you let the adults and the authorities deal with that rather than you all trying to deal with that. Because it sounds to me like there's an issue with people jumping people right now, and that's scary.
Shaking your head, yeah.
There's definitely a piece with people carjacking people. That is scary. You have a right to be scared. But upping the ante and introducing a gun into that scenario only puts you in a very dangerous situation as it relates to law enforcement and for your own quality of life.
So we're gonna take one more question, get back to our scenario. Okay. So the last time we had it, we got pulled over in a vehicle that we realized was stolen, and it had drugs and a gun in it. Now our friend is telling us, hey, we're gonna use this car, get us to our next crime. So I'm gonna now pull over at this store and carjack another person. Or I'm gonna pull to this store and rob this store. And you in your back of your mind is saying, this isn't right. I didn't sign up for this. I just wanted to ride home. I just wanted to ride to the snowball stand. But now I'm in a car that's being used to commit another crime. So, Mr. DA, how do we get ourselves out of that situation and assure that we are not being charged with any crime. We're in a car that's stolen, is about to be used to commit another crime. I'm not comfortable being here. How can I get out before it's too late and I'm charged with that crime?
You know, one of the things, and I look at a lot of cases involving young people, some of them the same ages as you guys. And a lot of times it might be one person who has made up their mind to do this thing, to break this law, to take this car, to hurt this person. And it's three other people who thought they were just hanging out together, right? And so often you see the three who clearly this wasn't what they had planned for the day, either get in the car or keep going with the person that's causing that harm. And just like Councilmember King said, sometimes you got to run. The best thing you can do in a situation like that is to go the other direction, right? Yeah.
If you're in a high-speed chase and you get caught, how long would you serve?
Say it one more time.
If you're in a high-speed chase and you get caught, how long would you serve?
It depends on what the crime was that led to the car chase. And it depends on if someone gets hurt in that car chase. The scariest thing about police car chases or anything like that is you all walking home from school, or your little brothers and sisters walking home from school, or somebody playing basketball in the street. Sometimes it's not about who's in the car that's running or the car that's chasing. It's all of us who are just living our lives, and all of a sudden the car comes down our neighborhood at 100 miles per hour and smashes into a human being who had nothing to do with that whole thing. So that it could be a lot of time if something bad happens. But I want y'all to not miss the point from Councilmember King's last question. If people start doing something and you are with them, whether it's in a car, whether it's in a house, and you disagree, it's not enough just to disagree internally and feel like Freddie's wrong. You need to remove yourself from that situation where wrong is occurring. So you can prove to anybody who ever comes and takes a look and says, I walked away from that because I didn't want to be a part of it.
Any questions? Some ask.
Where somebody in a stolen car and they get out before the cops come?
So you said, what are the ones in a stolen car and they got out before the cops come? That's your question?
You mean from the standpoint of would they get in trouble, or like, tell me where you going with it?
Somebody said fingerprints. So what if they get out of the car before the cops come and they look at the fingerprints and they think that's the people that had the car before it got stolen?
Well, fingerprints are evidence, right? So when we find stolen cars, we want to try to figure out who stole the car. Now, sometimes in the city of New Orleans, the person who stole the car doesn't keep the car. They give the car to somebody else to drive around, right? But one of the tools we have, we can test for DNA, we can test for fingerprints. And if you got a ride like these two from the earlier scenario, and you touch something in the car and your fingerprints are there, you might have a knock on your door that might say, hey, look, we found your prints in this stolen Honda Civic. You care to tell us when you were in it? And then you might say, a stolen car, I was never in it. And I was like, well, this fingerprint matches your fingerprints. You want to answer that question again? You might say, I got a ride home from school, right? So that's a tool that's going to lead to an investigation. And if your fingerprints are inside of a stolen vehicle, then it could lead investigators to come knock on your door or come to your school to ask you some questions about how your fingerprints came to be in this car, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How you gonna know it's our friend? DNA. No, like.
So technically, the way that you determine whether all of us have individual fingerprints. Everybody's fingerprints are different, just like everybody's DNA is different. So in order to test to see if my fingerprint is on these glasses, they would take some ink, put it on my hand, and they would print me on paper. And they would take that paper and they would compare it to the fingerprints found in these glasses or the fingerprints found in the car.
I meant like how you gonna like how you gonna know who fingerprint it is? Like if you just like if you like if it's a stolen car and you like look on the steering wheel and you find fingerprints, how you gonna know who fingerprint it is? Like if they fingerprint like not in the system or something. You get printed when you're a baby. You do?
So she said you get printed when you're a baby. I think I
We don't use those fingerprints. We don't use those fingerprints. And there are that, but you know what? It's a good group. And I might have to come back and visit with y'all to help troubleshoot some things. But the truth of the matter is a lot of people who commit crimes are in the system already for stealing a car in the past. And their fingerprints would be, anytime you get convicted of a crime or arrested, your fingerprints are in the system. And so there's databases of certain people. Some people are not in the system, some people are in the system.
All right. What if I wanted to commit a crime and
I can't help you commit crime.
No. Like I was saying like what if I burn my fingerprints off? How y'all gonna find it? How you gonna burn your fingerprints?
People try that. People try to burn it off. They try to cut them up, put glue in their fingertips. It doesn't work. Well, that's always DNA that you may leave behind. A piece of hair, exactly.
So here's the thing. Everybody who commits a crime always thinks they got a plan, right? And you might have gloves on, and you might have a hairnet on, and you do the whole thing. You think, man, I thought of everything I saw in that movie. They're not going to catch me. And then as you're running out, you cut yourself and you bleed, or you drip sweat on a piece of paper before you leave, and you get your DNA. So there's no scenario where anybody ever thinks of all of the things. And I'm gonna have to keep working with y'all so we can come up with some new ideas and some new solutions.
Well, let me ask just one before we have some off time to talk further. I want to get this last scenario out because this is something that it can happen and it can happen. So you and your friend, we got through this scenario and me and my friend say that we go commit this armed robbery. Now, none of us have a weapon. We're just looking out for a good time, summertime. We just want to have some fun. We commit this crime and we steal this man's car, and he's in a car. And he's an elderly individual, and he gets afraid and catches a heart attack. Now, it wasn't our intention on harming this person. We just wanted to get this car and ride around. But now this person has a heart attack. We didn't know he was elderly. We didn't know he was sickly. But he's now dead. So can you tell us now, since we committed this crime without any intentions on it going this far, but what still are the ramifications for our actions?
So the law is really clear on, and to really try to break it down a little bit, I'm gonna leave out some of the legalese. In for a penny, in for a pound, right? If 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you all say you're gonna buy drugs from Houston and drive them to New Orleans to sell, you two make the trip to Houston, right? Instead of buying the drugs, you kill the person you bought them from, and then you meet with these folks in New Orleans. This conspiracy to do the one crime of buying these drugs and bringing them to Houston now has an added measure of a homicide in Houston that is a part of that piece. And if in the commission of a felony, if you're committing a felony, no matter what that felony is, whatever occurs as part of that is a natural consequence of that felony. So somebody having a heart attack in the middle of a robbery or having a stroke or what have you, you might think, man, that's just because they were old. But it was the stress of what decision was made here that you are now in for a pound, right? So like you got to always think about how things are connected, how a decision you make and a decision someone else makes, how you could then be responsible for their decision. And that's sort of that law of conspiracy. It's a tough thing for people to understand, and it's much better to understand it before you find yourself in one, for sure.
Okay, you say that the elderly person will have a heart attack while while we're trying to jack his car. How would that be on us if he have a heart attack? Like, I could see if we were to scare him and he had a heart attack, but we didn't touch him. We didn't tell him no type of words. We didn't
Let me
point
ask
out.
you,
Yeah.
when you gave me the scenario earlier about getting jumped, right? Before anybody threw a punch or hit you, were you scared?
No,
You weren't?
I know they was finna jump me.
Okay. If three people walked up to you and said, "We're about to jump you for those nice those shoes right there," would you be scared?
I would be.
Let me tell you this. If somebody is a victim of any kind of robbery, it scares you. It's a scary thing. And the law says that if you made a choice to do that thing, whether you harmed them, pushed them, shot at them or not, you are the person that have triggered that thing from happening. Yes, sir.
What would be the charges for if the man catch a heart attack and die?
It'd be like the law calls it like felony murder. It's because you were involved in the commission of a felony, and during the commission of that felony, a murder occurred. So that's where the law is made.
Cause he would have had the heart attack if you wouldn't have tried to get his car.
Exactly.
You're hired.
Exactly.
You're hired. I'm coming back for you.
And-
Just need you
and-
to finish school.
And that quick joyride, I didn't let a person go catch a heart attack. Now, all of us who was a part of that situation are in jail. Our family has to get us out. If they can't get us out, we stuck in there. And murder carries a long sentence. So I just want you to think, and everybody, that's why we had this conversation today. We want you all to think about your actions leading into the summer and how something could seem so innocent, so fun, and it's just a joy ride. It's just my boy, my girlfriend, her older brother or cousin, how that can lead to a lifetime of trouble. Now remember the saying, it says, a ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if you can stop for a second, pause and think, is this the right decision? Is this the smart thing to do? No matter how I look, no matter if my friends call me whatever, is it worth a lifetime of harm to myself and to someone else? And all the time you'll find the answer is no. So with that being said, I want to thank our DA for coming out to join us today and answering these questions. I want to thank you all for being great students and asking great questions. And thank you, teachers, for allowing us to have this conversation. Let's give it for the teachers and the staff. All right. So, Mr. D, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And
Thanks
and
for
thank y'all.
thanks for the words of thought. I mean, y'all are.
I still got a lot of questions.
I
We
can
can have
tell. I can tell. I think we need to come back.
We're going to have some more.
I think we need to come back and keep checking in with this group.
Thank y'all.